Hi everyone. We are from Group 11, and we are going to present our topic with unemployment rate during COVID-19 pandemic. I am Guan Pui.
My name is Vignesh.
My name is Hidayatul Fitri.
And my name is Hazika.
My name is Cha Ji-in.
My name is Nur Hidayah binti Idris.
So we are now going to present our slide.
So the subject of our presentation today is unemployment issue due to COVID-19 pandemic. So our presentation will be in 4 parts. First part is introduction. Second part is theories related to the economic issue. The third part is development of theory from different school of thought, and the final part is conclusion. So here is example of news that regarding to unemployment due to COVID-19. Now let's move to the introduction first. So what is COVID-19 pandemic? According to World Health Organization or WHO, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered strain of coronavirus, a type of virus known to cause respiratory infection in humans. So it gives a huge impact in our economy, especially it contributes to increasing in unemployment. So next, according to International Labour Organization or ILO, they said early in March that is 1.25 billion workers or 38% workers of the global workforce are facing a high risk of a pay or cut layoff. And Malaysia are also affected due to this movement control order or MCO, and definitely it's causing rising in unemployment rate in Malaysia. As a proof, Department of Statistics Malaysia shows that the unemployment rate in March 2020 increased 3.9%, and it reflects the negative impact of MCO of the labour market. So, why the unemployment rate increase due to this pandemic? Because of the employer unable to pay the workers' salaries because of the decline in business performance or temporary shutdown is business operation. So I think that's all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter.
According to Department of Statistics Malaysia, there were around 61,500 people are being unemployed in March as a result of movement control order since 18 March 2020. So the unemployment during COVID-19 pandemic is an involuntary unemployment, which is more specific on clinical or demand deficit unemployment. It occurs when a person is unwilling to be laid out by the firm due to the situation or condition of insufficient aggregate demand in the economy. So due to MCO, everyone are required to stay at home and non-essential business are forced to shut down. So in such situation, consumers will worry about their income are being unsecure and thus decrease their consumptions, and which also decrease the aggregate demand. So according to the law of demand and supply, change in demand will cause to change in supply, which to reach a new equilibrium point. So thus, decrease in aggregate demand will cause decrease in output. As shown in the figure 1, when aggregate demand decrease from D1 to D2, where the price level are being unchanged, the GDP as a result will reduce from Y1 to Y2. And the demand deficient unemployment is occurred between the movement of Y1 to Y2. As a result of output decrease, the firm will decide to reduce their production and require fewer workers, and this lead to the lower for labor demand. So either worker will be being laid out or firm cut back on employing new worker. And in the worst case scenario like COVID-19 pandemic, the fall in demand will cause a huge number of unemployed persons due to firm goes bankrupt, such as the Shen Hotel in Ipoh announced to shut down its business by the end of May this year. And next, I will pass to next person.
Okay, so I will be explaining about the role of government during this COVID-19 pandemic. So actually, Malaysian government has imposed this policy, which is known as the Movement Control Order. Everybody calls it as MCO policy, which this policy actually restricted the movement of people to control the spreading of the disease. So everybody practices this social distancing rule, and the government featured this policy starting from the 18th of March 2020. So from phase 1 to phase 4, actually to control the spreading of disease, all of the phases, which include this MCO, MCO2, CMCO, and RMCO. In terms of monetary policy, the government actually increased the aggregate demand and economic growth through reducing the interest rate, which means that when the interest rate is lower, people will this will induce people to spend more on the consumption and investment, and because it is easier to borrow money, which in turn leads to lower saving, and this will actually increase aggregate demand and increase gross domestic product, which is the GDP, and eventually decrease the unemployment. For example, the Bank Negara Malaysia reduced the overnight policy rate to 2.5% because due to this COVID-19 that actually weakens the global economy. So in terms of expansionary fiscal policy, the government actually increased the spending and decreased taxation. For example, which is the wage subsidy program, this WSP program. This wage subsidy program is actually for the SME industry, which is a small and medium enterprises. This is to prevent large-scale retrenchment by funding a portion of the employees' wages to actually decrease the burden of the SME industry. And besides that, the government spending has increased to stimulate the increase in consumption as the income of people being secure. Besides, when the consumption is increased, this will result in higher aggregate demand and higher gross domestic product. And in the conclusion, the firm will increase production and retain the employment level. That's all for me.
Next is development of theory from different school of thought. They have two school of thought, which is first is classical school. In classical school, voluntary unemployment exists only when there is a factor in the way of market force. When the minimum wage is set above the equilibrium wage, firm employ favor worker and labor supply exists labor demand. Thus, labor supply condition is known as employment. Classical school economy works best under the principle of laissez-faire. Second is Keynesian school. John Maynard Keynes rejected classical view during Great Depression. So, voluntary unemployment exists when there is insufficient aggregate demand, and reducing the real wage means people have a lower income. To make a classical circle of voluntary unemployment. As a result, Keynesian school is the better described in the employment situation during COVID-19.
Based on the two economic school of thought, we will be discussing on Arthur Churchill Pigou and John Maynard Keynes, or better known as Keynesian. How does this employment theory developed on both school of thought? Arthur Churchill Pigou was the leading economist from the neoclassical school after the death of his predecessor and like Marshall, which means he started the theory of employment which is published in 1933 during the Great Depression. Pigou's desire to increase national saving to promote economic growth rested on his orthodox idea that economies tend towards full employment. So, his idea was reduction in general price level with economic downturn will boost real value of people's asset. Then the people will decide to save less and consume more. Basically, this will increase the demand in the economy and pushing it back to promote full employment. So, same goes to application today due to COVID-19 situation. Government should try to increase national saving first. For example, in Malaysia, government has introduced Malaysian stimulus package in order to boost Malaysian economy. Another scholar will be John Maynard Keynes from Keynesian School of Thought, imposed about theory of unemployment through his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money, which published in 1936. Keynesian was originally started from Great Depression of 1930s. Classical theory suggested a drop in investment could lead to lower interest rate. Thus, this fall in interest rate will reduce saving, increase investment and cause economy return to full employment. However, Keynesian analysis tells this is some sort of not happening because of factors such as liquidity trap. He adopted macroeconomic approach because World War I requires an overall view of economy. This approach was necessary as public become more eager to government deal with unemployment. The main issue during Great Depression is a very high rate of unemployment which is not claimed by classical economists. So because of that, something need to be done. This is all started with Phillips curve, which shows trade-off between employment rate and inflation in economy. Keynesian argues that the best solution to a recession is expansionary fiscal policy. For example, like cutting down tax in order to stimulate consumption and investment, or direct increases in government expenditure in order to shift aggregate demand curve to the right. So based on the figure 1, employment level in ADAS diagram, so ADR represent the recession. As the increased aggregate demand, it will shift the curve to the ADF, which is right, full employment and potential GDP. So during COVID-19, increased spending and reduce the tax to reform the economic country will be as necessary and important. For example, flexible work arrangements, tax deduction for employers under Plan Jana Semula Ekonomi Negara Plan, which is imposed by our Prime Minister.
For the conclusion, to control the spread of COVID-19 disease, most of affected countries decided to undergo a lockdown or MCO. This government action has heavily affected country GDP in the major economic sector, and this has led to unemployment issue increase. As a result, the Malaysian government has used expansionary fiscal policy to reform the country's economy, and this has reduced unemployment rate due to COVID-19 pandemic. So, for example, government has launched economic stimulus package, which is called Penjana, and this is valued about 35 billion ringgit. So, in this presentation, we have found that the theory of involuntary unemployment and theory of active fiscal and monetary policies under Keynesian school of thought is the best suit to describe the cause of unemployment rate during the COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, unemployment issue and country economy are believed to be solved and recovered in near future. But for now, everyone must cooperate to curb and decrease the spread of COVID-19 disease and minimize the economic impact caused by COVID-19 until a vaccine is being founded. That's all from us, Group 11. Thank you, everyone.